Right.
Sound on, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Select Board meeting for April 18th, 2023. Tonight's agenda, we will start out with public comment. At about 7:10, the board's going to have a discussion on reorganization, as we do each year. We'll do Select Board Liaison and Town Manager reports right after that. We need to appoint a temporary Board of Registrars member, and Laura will lead us in that discussion. We then are going to talk about recommendations on parking violation fees and potential changes. I see Lieutenant Jones in the audience, thank you. We'll then talk about revisions to our current Select Board policy, section 1.2.5, as a result of some recent litigation and updates. About 8:45, we're going to have a discussion about the purchase of real property for municipal use, including a potential executive session under Purpose 6 to consider the value of 17 Harnden Street. And I believe this will be a move into executive session and then returning to open session afterward. And then we'll follow that with a discussion of future agendas and approval of meeting minutes. So with that said, let's move to public comment. Are there members of the public that would like to speak? Mr. Brown got his hand up first.
Always get your hand up first. Good evening. The Memorial Day before the pandemic, we found ourselves short of flowers and flag holders. And we reflected back on it, and there were a great many people, veterans, that had markers but were not listed on that mark. So I took it from there, and I have created, with the help of Matt Dean downstairs and Michael Hinton, I've gone back and visited each and every veteran's grave that I had any questions about. And right now, we stand at about 2,395. And that can be subject to change eventually when we determine what constitutes a veteran. And there is set guidelines by the Veterans Administration to when they became a veteran. And Ginny Blodgett is working on that in the old cemetery, which is a big pain. So what I'd like to do through you people, if I might, if anybody out there does not find a flag on their marker on their grave this year, please give us a call. We'll do everything we can to make sure. There's a lot of oddball stuff that goes on. One of the biggest things that we had was urns. Somehow or another, when the paperwork comes through, there's no mention that they're veterans. At Forest Glen alone, there are 5 government markers, but they're not physically there, which is allowed by the government. So that was 5. Again, I think I found 40 that had markers, but they weren't on the finder grave. So that's what Kim was working on at the time. So with the help of Matt Dean and the other fellow down there, Michael Halloran, I think I'm pretty close to 99% perfect. I don't want it to be 100% because you've got no place to go after that. But, and the other thing, I know Jackie's made a contribution to the Veterans Memorial Fund that funds flowers. If anybody out there would like to make a donation, send it in care of the Veterans Agent, and it would be greatly appreciated, because when we put the memorial up at the high school, that was a $12,000 whack, and it took quite a bite out of us. I think we've got roughly 30, after this year, we'll have like something like $31,000, but that's forever. And I'm being a little selfish because when I'm up there, I want my flower. Thanks.
Thanks, Bill. Other people that would like to speak this evening during public comment? Appearing in the audience. Jackie, anybody online that would like to speak?
I don't see anyone raising their hand.
All right, last call in the room. All right, let's move on. Next item on our agenda is select board vote to reorganize. Typically what would happen here is I would ceremonially, I guess, hand the gavel over to Fidel. I wanted to just ask the board, fine to do this, but does the board want to have a discussion about delaying the reorganization for one more meeting? Carlo.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to not reorganize at this time, if that's needed.
Do you want to make the motion now, or do you want to have a discussion, or
I mean,
either way?
I just said my piece, that's, everyone else is.
Yeah, with feeling of the board, other folks.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I mean, it's just one more meeting, we'll just get it right and put a period and move on.
Other folks, Karen?
I don't see any need to delay this. We have received instructions from town council that it is business as usual for a select board of a town, so I see no need for that. We can get right down to business. I think we should delay one meeting.
Carly, you want to make a motion?
Hopefully I'll get it right, yes, move that the select board, reorganize at our May 9th meeting. Once the recount, as long as the recount has been certified by our town clerk. Good. That's why we're doing it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. I think Donna is actually online. Donna, are you able to hear us? Perhaps not yet.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello there. I don't. Did you just hear the motion and just wanted to make sure is that an appropriate way to do it? So the motion would be to delay the reorganization till our meeting on May 8th?
May
9th. May 9th. And sorry, pending.
Pending certification of the recount per the town clerk.
Does that sound all right?
Yes, you can delay it. I do note under your policy that, which is not under the bylaw or the charter, but your policy does say that you will reorganize before a town meeting. So that's the only wrinkle that you have. But that's only because of my ignorance as to when your first day of town meeting is.
It's the next Monday, the 24th.
So
Okay,
we'd be
so-
going against the policy in order to do that.
Correct, correct,
But it's not a bylaw, it's not part of the charter.
correct.
It's a policy decision, literally.
Yep.
So, I mean, I personally am fine with delaying it until the next meeting.
No one seconded it.
Oh, sorry.
Once
Does someone want to, thank you. Does someone want to second the motion? Is there
Second.
any further discussion? Not appearing. All right, let's take a vote. We can just do it by a show of hands. All those in favor? Opposed? And we are 4-1 in favor, so we will delay that. So my per diem isn't too bad, so I'll continue for one meeting. Next is Select Board Liaison Town Manager Reports. Who would like to go first? Oh, this is like my class today. Don't want to raise their hand.
Ladies first.
I'm open to whomever. How about a hand? Anybody who wants to
I'll
raise
go
their hand?
first, Mark, I'll
Chris,
get it out
thank
of
you.
the way. Thank you, Mark. The school committee, unfortunately, at their meeting, Susan Baton is gonna be leaving and going back to her old position because they need some help squaring away the town over there. I believe it's Canton,
Wayland.
Wayland. Yeah.
Wayland. Same difference. But yeah, she's going back there for a year and a half, getting them back in good financial shape. She's done a great job here. I've spoken to her numerous times over the course of how long she's been here, and she's always been very efficient with her answers and very thoughtful, and obviously getting full day kindergarten somewhat squared away and on a pathway moving forward, amongst other things. So she'll definitely be missed, and the school committee's actively looking for that. So hopefully we have somebody by June-ish, the next school year. And that's what I got.
Thanks.
Sure, yeah.
Please, Jackie.
So the Mass Municipal Association gave an update on the supplemental budget that the governor signed late last month after our last meeting, and most notably for us, the sub-budget contains a provision that allows local government to continue holding remote and hybrid meetings until March of 2025. Also expedited outdoor dining and to-go cocktails until March of 2024. MMA also, it caught my ear. They talked about how MMA is looking into options for state aid that would help with the local cost associated with mattress removal. As you might remember, that's a state mandate now, and so there's been a lot of questions from MMA members. I think that that's still part of the MMA's budget package. Every year. They're negotiating and lobbying for cities and towns to get more money across the board in the state budget. And then just a quick update from the Board of Health. The Coalition for Prevention and Support has 2 events coming up on women's health. This Thursday, April 20th, will be a discussion on women and alcohol. Next Thursday, April 27th, a postpartum depression and perinatal mental health discussion, both at the Reading Public Library at 7 p.m. And then otherwise, the Board of Health is continuing with the community health needs assessment. They've got a planning committee that also includes representatives from the school mental health providers, the Council on Aging, as well as Dr. Chatterjee, and they'll be meeting again in May. And that's all.
Thanks. Kyle?
Okay, so rec committee was on the 10th. We have a new hire, Jim Sullivan, to replace Ariel, and as my understanding, Jim Sullivan was here 13 years ago, and he's going to train Jenna, I guess, and now he's back, coming from Winchester, and he's going to start in early May. I think I have that right. They voted on a bunch of amplified sound permits for the Lions Fun Run. And Reading Softball is having a championship day at Birch Meadow in June. And then a private organization, Remax Harmony, is having an event at Memorial Park from 3 to 6, Friends and Family Picnic. Also, there was a Birch Meadow update, and they went over the discrepancy for phase 1 of how that money was going to be, with Fidel and staff. 600 coming from the Parker roof, and I think 900 coming from the 40R. Does that sound right? Mm-hmm. 900 or so coming from the 40R incentives to make up the difference in cost. So hopefully they're breaking ground soon on that. And then it was time for a Simon's Way committee update, because we had a meeting right before the election. And Angela Benda, who is here, decided to take 45 minutes and make accusations and commented on my personal career, my professional career, and just basically attacked me on committing open meeting law violations, even though I apologized, and just kind of, cited things I said in 2019, things I said in 2020. I have a conflict of interest. She wants me off the Simon's Way committee. So that was a whole diatribe of at least 45 minutes. And I sat there and listened patiently. And then I made some comments as far as her accusations. I countered them, and Chuck Robinson was there as a witness because he's part of the Simon's Way committee. And then, and that was it. That was a big part of the meeting, unfortunately. And I thought it was uncalled for, but, it was part of her liaison report, and she decided to attack me, as much as she could. And so I guess we'll see if that's going to be on the agenda sometime soon to get me off the committee. And that's it. Board of Health. Want me to do Board of Health?
Do you want to do the rest?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, you did?
All right, okay,
Well,
yeah, just another item from Board of
There was
Health.
a few things on Board of
Yeah,
Health,
there's, Carlo and I covered the first part of it together. So Meadowbrook is looking for a tobacco license, cigar only, to sell single cigars in their pro shop, I believe. And so there was some interesting discussion about how this interacts with the town goal to limit overall tobacco licenses. And so the idea was proposed and then approved that the Board of Health will first update the total number of tobacco licenses at their May meeting, and that'll be going from 19 to 17. And I think that there's also an element of our compliance with the state's tobacco law, which was updated, I believe, in either 19 or 20, and which now boards of health like ours are trying to get their towns in compliance with, and then they will consider the Meadowbrook tobacco license, because it seems that license is a bit of a special case because it's not a retail shop. It's open only to members and guests, and they're selling, just single-use cigars. I think that's it.
Yeah, and thank you. And then there was an update on the water damage to 4 Summit Drive. I guess it was extensive water damage, and the owner, I think it's a condo, right, needed more time, and the board approved that. So the tobacco regulations, the Board of Health's been working on updating them, and I think they're pretty much done. And this Meadowbrook request was kind of not in the regulations because it would be seasonal. It's only on Meadowbrook property. It's adults only. It's within the club. So they're going to hash that out at the next meeting. And then just quickly, I know Laura's here. She'll mention it. The Board of Registrars met right before our meeting, and I was here for that, and to discuss the recount. And they certified the petitions that were submitted. The recount will be held this Saturday at the Field House, starting at 9 a.m. And we are going to vote to David Zeke was presented as a temporary registrar.
Are we like moving ahead to a different agenda item?
No, this is a liaison report. It's on the agenda item.
We have an agenda item, I just wanna be careful. We have an agenda item, or we're gonna discuss this.
I think mentioning it's probably okay, but not discussing it further.
That's it.
That's right, David Z.
David Zeke will be
That's what I'm saying,
presented.
Captain,
Will be presented.
So Jackie, you said we're going from 19 licenses to 17, so backwards? We're losing people that have licenses for tobacco, or?
No, we're not losing, we don't have existing licensees who are giving up their licenses. I believe we only have 12 out to businesses now, but the ceiling is being reduced from 19 to 17.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Once one gets retired,
Right.
it's as long as it's not a transfer, once someone gives it up, the threshold goes down. So they're trying to get down to 15 ideally,
Yeah.
but they're gonna go in increments.
Thanks.
Sure, so do we have an update on the select committee?
Didn't I give that last time? We talked about the survey?
When did they meet?
Oh, that was before the election. Oh, yeah, you're right. It was before the election. Yeah, we went over the survey results. We took some votes that shouldn't have been taken. And we tried to meet, I think, last week, and we couldn't make quorum. And
What were the votes on?
the votes were to recharge the charge of the Simons Way Committee and to do an RFI, request for information. We went over the main part of the meeting was the survey results that we did, over 1,600 respondents. And then trying to move things forward, we had a discussion, Heather was a little bit late, so the 6 of us had a discussion about doing an RFI to see if anybody was interested in putting a building. And then we also talked about holistically, the majority of the board agreed that since we're in this area, that we should expand the scope of the charge, because it's not overwhelmingly, but the majority of the respondents were recreation, indoor and outdoor. So as a board, as a committee, we felt that we're charged with the 2.5, well, not the 2.5, but the 15 plus, the whole thing, and that there's other opportunities, there may be other opportunities, so we should explore them now, since we're in that area, and it's a recreation area already.
Okay, so since that's one of the items that I think was in violation of the open meeting law, like you guys will discuss that.
Yeah,
on the
I
future
addressed it,
agenda?
I addressed it, correct, yes.
Great, okay. Oh, thanks. I attended the recreation committee because I was unable to attend that Simons Way Exploratory Committee. And frankly, I'd never attended a recreation committee ever in 20 plus years of volunteering, so that was really good. It was insightful to see some of the other things that come before the recreation committee, and we did get an update from Miss Binda on what was discussed at the Simon's Way and her concerns with lack of process and open meeting law violations, so that was certainly discussed. I tried to attend the Council on Aging and unfortunately that was Zoom bombed, so we'll have to catch up with them next time. And I am going to be attending RMHS on April 26th. The superintendent, Tom Michalski, has invited all of the select board and the school committee and Fidel to come in and actually meet staff and see teachers in action and just really get in the schools. And so anyway, I can make that and I'm really looking forward to it. That's gonna be a great opportunity. And I appreciate him doing the outreach. We've been talking about how we need to work more closely, and as a liaison to the school committee, certainly it can't hurt me to get back in the schools and see how things are going. That's it, thanks.
Thank you. So a few updates. The Council on Aging has been working very, very hard for a long time on a video to kind of highlight the conditions of the Pleasant Street Center and make it clear to the community really what the outstanding needs are. And they relate very much to both programming and space. And the focus of this video, we'll talk about both, but the space is kind of one of the pieces that I think is really important. They are voting tonight, but I was hoping to have an email. I don't have it yet, so I don't know how the vote went. But the goal would be to be able to share this with town meeting, really just so that people can see it. Actually, it's to share it with the entire community, but town meeting might be an interesting opportunity to get it started. So I'm hoping that they took a vote to approve the video in its current form and see how it may be possible to share that out. I had a busy office hour at the Pleasant Street Center last week, and that's different. Frankly, it isn't usually that way, but we actually had a line and some good discussions. One of them was very focused on thinking about the needs of the senior community while being prudent and relooking the Pleasant Street Center as an option in terms of what we might be able to do also. But there were a variety of discussions, but it was nice to see a number of people, came to join that office hour, so that was great. One of the things we should do tonight as we do future agenda is to think about office hours for May, board members, to see if we can set up for that. The other group that I attended a couple of meetings for is the trustee, let's say commissioner of trusts, of which I am the board's member. And this group does a lot of work in kind of supporting the community and in making sure that the the trusts are administered appropriately. When we go through the scholarship activities, a lot of the money goes through that way because the trustees are responsible for that. And very, very positive meeting. The only downer was that Beth Kleppeis, who has been in this community for a very long time as a volunteer, actually she was the treasurer for years and has been on different boards and committees in this town for 35 years, decided that she's not going to run for re-election in June. So that means that the Commissioner of Trust will have an opening, as well as others that we can talk about for Basque. But her service has been incredible to the town, so very much appreciate all that you've done, Beth. And with that, I'm going to turn it to the town manager.
Thank you.
Can I grab like 2 seconds? I'm sorry, my fault. I just wanted to mention, you may all know, and those of you watching at home, Fire Chief Greg Burns sends us bi-monthly updates, and one of the things that was in his April 7th notes was that firefighter Derek Loftus has been selected to be Reading Firefighter of the Year, so I just wanted to publicly recognize him, and thank you to Chief Burns for keeping us posted. Sorry.
Awesome.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Sorry, do you have a question?
While the select board, before we move to the town manager's report, is it too late to take you up on those 2 minutes of personal public comment as?
I think it's reasonable to take 2 minutes for public comment. So please.
Should I wait for town manager or?
No, why don't you go now, please?
Thank you. Angela Binda, town meeting member, select committee member, and rec committee member. If you're walking down the street and I say, wow, that's a really ugly dog you have, that's a personal attack. If I say during a public meeting that other members of the committee that we serve on are also not happy with the process by which this committee is being run and are looking to you, the chair, to do something about it, or to listen to the committee members, or to follow the process. That is not a personal attack. I did not personally attack Select Board member Carlo Bacci. I pointed out things that have happened in the meetings that not only I have felt have been lacking in process, and at that meeting, I did go on for 45 minutes, and what I was shocked at was that nobody stopped me. No one stopped me. People were asking questions. People wanted to hear what I said. I did not attend the previous Recreation Committee meeting. I had COVID. It wasn't broadcast. I heard about it. And what I heard was that Recreation Committee members were upset that Select Board member Carlo Bacci was there. And again, this is what I heard from someone, was telling them that the Recreation Committee members were upset that he was there telling them that they needed to get on board with pickleball at SWEC. And what somebody said to me was, doesn't he understand that there is a Recreation Committee member, liaison, or representative on this, and that it's your job to represent the Recreation Committee and not his job to force it on them. I've also heard from other members who are upset with the process. We are 4 meetings in and we still have not defined any criteria by which we will judge any of the projects that come before us. This whole RFI, request for information, came out sort of out of the blue, but it didn't seem to surprise some of the people in the audience, and it didn't come out of the blue. It was a surprise to the committee members. And we took a vote, and we took 2 votes, and there was consensus, but again, there was nothing written, nothing prepared. We didn't have time to think about it or talk about it in advance. There probably would be a consensus if we got to the end process that it makes sense to have some sort of recreation at that piece of property. But after the vote for the RFI, I immediately said, I'll help work on this. Can I volunteer to work on this? And Select Board member Bacci immediately shut me down and said, no, town staff works on this. We don't work on this. Town staff works on this.
Ask you to wrap it.
Yeah, and I went back and looked at the charge, and on the charge, it says that if at the very end of the process, there's a call for an RFI, that the committee would work with the town staff. Eric Gaffin said at the Recreation Committee, it seems like there's a conclusion that is looking for a process that is being forced by Select Board member Bacci. I'd be happy to talk to anyone about this privately. Thank you.
Fidel, back to you.
Okay, I guess I got a lot going on. Town meeting begins on Monday. We started the distribution of the warrant books. So any town meeting members who haven't picked it up, please pick it up. Just a few changes that we have made on the warrant book. The proposed motions are inside the book, which is something that we received a request for last town meeting. We're also working on a few recordings for ahead of town meeting, and we are doing interviews with the Reading Post and the Daily Times Chronicle on the contents of the warrant. I also wanted to acknowledge and thank the businesses and the residents for all of the impacts that we're seeing right now with construction. It is I can imagine that it is very frustrating right now with the road closures in particular. Right now, we're having a few road closures on Lowell Street. The reason for that is that Lowell Street is going to get repaved, and the work that is happening now is on replacement of the manholes and the water valves that are throughout the street. So I know that it is going to be an impact. Our staff is doing the best that we can to notify everyone. National Grid is also at the end of Haven Street, and replacing the gas line, which is from the 1800s. But I do understand and realize that it is quite an impact on our residents and our businesses. I thank you for your patience and just bear with us. I did want to acknowledge that this week is National Work Zone Awareness Week. We're going to be doing some postings, right, on just ensuring that road closure signs are followed, that detours are followed. Obviously, police officers are posted at each detour as best as possible, but just for the safety of the workers in particular, please do your best to follow road closures. Again, I certainly understand that construction at this moment is at its peak, and it is quite frustrating. We are receiving calls and calling back and making adjustments as we can. My last update is that we received about 1,500 responses so far on the survey for the rubbish and recycling carts. I think that the story of the survey, it is not very different from what we're hearing, right? And what we have heard in the public comment sessions. We hear loud and clear that some residents, particularly those that are older or disabled, want to have another solution to carts. We definitely understand that, and we are working on those options. We also understand concerns about having to be charged for a second cart or for trash bags. Please understand that this is in preparation, and this is the story that we've been trying to tell. What we are seeing in the market, not that in our community yet, but in neighboring communities, most recently in Burlington and in Danvers, is that the cost of rubbish and recycling is really skyrocketing. This is a way to move Reading into tightening of the belt and introducing processes that we believe are going to help us in the future. I know that it's a major transition, and not all of it is going to be implemented at once, but we are going to town meeting in order to begin that transition. Thank you.
Okay. And on that topic, so your presentation at town meeting will address the main needs as they are, and then a discussion of some other areas, whether it's a smaller size or a different solution. That'll be something that will come up to town meeting.
Absolutely. What we plan to share is the options that we are exploring. Ultimately, once the funding is authorized, we will continue our outreach, and we will nail down those options. But we will definitely present the options that we are exploring.
Board members, any questions? Chris?
Thanks, Mark. So is the construction being done on 129, is that the state or us?
The construction on Lowell Street up here?
Yes.
So you mean in front of
In front of Town Hall.
In front of Town Hall. That is us, and that is a repaving of Lowell Street. Essentially, the funding for repaving of Lowell Street was actually funded by town meeting in FY 2022. But with delays in construction, we couldn't get it done in the fall. So it it is work that has been on the queue for a long time, but it is repaving of the street. And it's a town project.
I only bring it up because there is one gigantic hole out there that, where the manhole cover thing's supposed to go in, that someone's gonna kill themselves on out there.
Yeah, so
Specifically
Sure.
outside of there, not,
Sure.
I don't know about the rest, but the one directly outside of town hall is
Yep.
pretty significant.
yeah, so that is the casting work that is happening now. So what they did earlier today is that they essentially reset the manhole, the manhole, and they poured concrete around it, and it's got a set, but essentially for 24 hours. Tomorrow morning they'll put asphalt on it, and it's been happening on Lowell Street. You know, just it's the entire corridor that is going to be paved.
Okay, thanks.
Cal?
I know we have a lot of construction going on, and I heard Fidel say there is, but I didn't hear about addressing proper notice when they're shutting down streets on numerous occasions. And I'm just afraid it's gonna continue to happen. And there are certain times when, in a non-emergency issue, that streets should not be shut. It was notice is given, that's one thing, but on numerous occasions, notice hasn't been given to certain businesses that their street is gonna be shut down right before a holiday. And all I get is apologies and apologies, not well, how we're gonna fix it. So I'll make it a future agenda item that we have to come up with something, but a lot of the departments are failing the businesses, and it just keeps on happening. And I don't understand why, and it's, how many times are you gonna say I'm sorry when these guys are losing thousands of dollars? So I didn't hear any solutions, so maybe that'll have to be an agenda item.
Yeah, I mean,
Please.
you mind? I think one benefit is that the water and sewer work is almost wrapped up, right? And that was a big project that had a big corridor. So that was a hard one to wrap our hands around on a day-to-day basis, and there were multiple contractors that we had to coordinate. It sounds like I'm making an excuse. I'm simply saying that on a day-to-day basis, it is hard for our staff essentially to coordinate all of the work that is happening. So with the water and sewer project almost wrapped up, that should make it easier. Essentially, what is remaining at this point is paving work, which happens on a stretch. So I'm sure you all received the notifications on Lowell Street, right? That we gave a week prior to the work, and notifications of the work that is happening on Washington Street, which is going to start tomorrow. Those notices went out, I think, on Friday of last week, and we just made a reminder for this earlier today. So certainly it's going to be easier when the work is just on one corridor.
So maybe as an agenda item for the future, that would be the right way to continue the discussion.
It's not just in Reading. I got a grandson who works in the town of Burlington. You're at the mercy of the contractors and the asphalt plants, whether we like it or not, unfortunately. That's the name of the game.
So, Karen?
Mr. Brown, I have to agree with you. I ventured over to Wakefield last week and I was doing UEs, trying to find streets that were passable, I think, and there was at least one other community was the same. So it's a byproduct of actual monies coming back to cities and towns to fix our roads or infrastructure that it is not unique to Reading, but I do appreciate the texts and the emails and I know the staff is being as proactive as possible at letting everybody know, whether they're customers or business owners, that it's gotta get worse before it gets better, so thank you.
And I think to Carlos' point, being as helpful as we can with understanding that we're having impacts on people, having impacts on businesses, we're having impacts on residents, and I know you mentioned that, and I know that staff is attuned to that, and if something is happening and it's a critical day, maybe there's something we can do to be extra helpful. I don't know exactly what that would be, to tell you the truth, but. Chris?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I guess that segues into the map thing that we were discussing, Fidel. Is there any update on when we might know? This way here, then the whole town can just see when stuff is happening, and then we're hopefully all good by then. Do you know when it's gonna happen, or?
So I don't want to put my all of my eggs in that basket, but it is certainly something that I think is going to help. We've had 2 meetings so far with the contractors, so it is a software developer that is doing it. We're going to leverage the GIS platform that we use for our mapping for our GIS. We've had 2 meetings. We have a soft deadline on June. So by June we'll have something that I can show the board that we will be very comfortable with sharing.
Thank you.
Just one other thing on that. So I know you sent us a note from Ben Cares also, right? That he's actively going out and talking to people. So at least the planned activities is probably noticed. It sounds like the problem is unplanned activities.
I think it is when we are dealing with multiple contractors that as Mr. Brown said, it's move around without giving us proper notice.
Comments, questions? All right, let's roll on. Next item, Select Board appointment of temporary Board of Registrars member. Laura, please come join us.
Good evening. So the Board of Registrars met this afternoon, just before the meeting at 6 o'clock, and voted to recommend that a temporary Board of Registrar member be appointed to cover for a member who is out of town during the recount. We have to have a full board to do a recount. So the member that they recommended was David Zeke, who is a member of the same party as the member that is going to be out of town. So we ask that you appoint them, appoint him for the April 22nd recount to be appointed until the recount is certified and completed. Did I miss anything, Donna?
You're muted, Donna.
Thanks. Yes, you covered everything, Laura.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, the requirement is that the party of the person that's not able to attend is required to be who is appointed to that.
Correct. Correct.
Okay, board members, questions?
Thanks, Mark. So Laura, so we have to have a full board of 4, or could it have been done with 3?
So it has to be a full board of 3 plus me.
So full.
3 board of, yes.
Okay.
Other questions?
The majority of, the most of the reason why is because the town clerk is automatically a member of the Board of Registrars by position. The town clerk is one that is to remain neutral at all times in public eye, so therefore I don't vote. So I am a voting member, but I am there only if I need to be a tiebreaker. So in the case of a recount, I'm running along with town council running the recount, and the 3 members of the Board of Registrars are the one to make the final decisions, while I'm remaining neutral.
I had a follow-up-ish, not for Laura, so I don't know if you want me to ask my question now or wait.
On this
On this.
agenda item?
Yeah.
Please.
For me, it comes down to, I believe that the board had previously, when Jackie and I made the vast recommendations and whatnot, we were appointing people to boards and committees without interviewing them. And it was the will of the board for us to change that, and then for me to go, and then for me specifically to come back with the recommendations on changing the VAST process to prevent that from actually happening again. So essentially, it was the will of the board for us to make sure that we were interviewing everybody before we were putting people forward. And then tonight, we are going to not do that because we're not going to interview David because he isn't here and just bypass that. So I'm just wondering which way we're going with our appointment process, because if we're not interviewing people, then I can take that off the agenda item going forward. Sorry.
So when it comes to the appointments of the Board of Registrars, that works out slightly different. It's under recommendation of the town committee. And it's also, in this case, under the, includes the recommendation of the Board of Registrars. So I can't say that you shouldn't interview them, but the town committee basically recommends the position for you to appoint.
No, I agree with that. And if it wasn't David, if it was just some random person that I didn't know, I mean, I know David, I know he's gonna do a fair and fine job, so I agree with it. It's more of if it's our policy going forward to just not be interviewing people, even highly recommended people that, I'm voting yes on. I just would like to know which direction we're going forward. Because some of my vast recommendations are to fix the loopholes of Jackie and I just appointing people without being interviewed, regardless of who they are. Everyone knows who David is, for the most part. It's not just some random person, but that doesn't, so I don't know.
So we can talk a little bit about it. I was going to suggest one thing is that VASC is a different process, and we are the interviewing and appointing group on all those recommendations. So I think that's a chunk, that's VASC, and that's by itself. With the Board of Registrars, what I remember for full term recommendations, we do interview them.
They happen in the past.
Right, so we do that as part of the process. Here, we're in a little bit of a bind. This is, it needs to happen for Saturday. I don't think there's an option on this one, though I hear your point as well. What are other thoughts on it?
So I think, I look at this as working backward from that deadline, which is Saturday, the 22nd, for us to conduct this recount that, our policies provide for. And I appreciate Chris's concern and the analogy of the VASC, but my understanding was that this is this is a temporary appointment that's made by the Democratic Town Committee. So I'm okay with approving David for this temporary purpose.
The board members,
No, I'm fine with David.
any comments here?
Yep, I would just comment that, thank you, that's an excellent recommendation. David has been a longtime town meeting member, and he's well known to the community, and I'm sure he can execute these duties effectively and efficiently, which is what anybody petitioning for a recount deserves. And it's our job to be as expedient as possible and also to support you, Laura, in carrying out your duties. I will also let the board know that today I filed a disclosure that, hey, we have a recount filed for the select board and I could potentially be impacted. However, again, for all of the reasons earlier mentioned, where we have an opinion from town council that we should continue with our duties, where we are under time constraints, where this is very important and you need to carry out your duties. In my disclosure, I note that I feel very confident that I can weigh in on this issue without a conflict of interest.
Sorry, disclosure to whom?
To the town clerk.
To the town clerk.
I received it today.
Chris?
Thanks, Mark. Just so I'm aware, because I could be incorrect, does the Democratic Town Committee nominate someone to the Board of Registrars originally in the first place? Or, because I'm only going back to Jackie's point where if they made the recommendations back then and we still interviewed people, it's the same thing for this. They're, once again, making the recommendations when we're in the interview. I'm just going by what we've done in the past, that's all. Like I said, it's David, we all know him. Yeah, I'm not gonna be giving David a hard time over
So
something like
a
that.
little bit of a difference here is that when you're appointing someone as a permanent position, you there's a recommendation by the town committee, and at that point, you as select board members or as VASC can determine how you want to go about the process to appoint them. In this case, it's a temporary position, and the Board of Registrars actually weighed in on who would be appointed as well. So it's the recommendation of the current members of the Board of Registrars. So it's, I don't wanna say it's not quite as much responsibility onto you as a select board, but we're also under a very time constraint. This recount has to be done within 10 days, which means that we have to do it by the 24th. I have to notify the candidates officially today, which means that you need to, this appointment needs to be made before I can notify them. That's the reason why they haven't been notified officially yet, because we have to make this appointment where we don't have time to follow the process of
Yes.
interviewing, if that's what you know.
It's more of, we have to be consistent, Laura. You know, we have to be
I
consistent.
understand, but I also
Consistent
understand
with
that
reality.
Yeah, I know.
we're under recount laws now.
I hear you.
Okay, any final thoughts on this one? Do we have a motion then, Chris, on this?
Yes. Move to appoint David Zeke as a temporary member of the Board of Registrars with the term expiring upon completion of the recount.
Second.
Any discussion, folks? Not appearing. Let's take a vote. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? We are 5-0. You may notify the candidates.
I will notify.
Thanks, Laura. And we should say too, thank you for, so an election is a heavy lift, and now you got some more work to do yet. So thank you.
Yes, but it's fun stuff.
Absolutely, just what I was thinking.
You guys have a great night.
Thank you.
Too.
Thank you, Donna.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Donna.
Okay, next item. We're gonna talk about parking violation fees and potential changes. So board members, in page 11 in the packet is what we discussed, I believe, last time. Last time, I think I was remote and Lieutenant Jones was there, but I couldn't see him in the back corner, but he's here today and I do see him, so please.
Yep, thank you. So as we discussed last time, the recommendation was to increase the 3 different categories of parking violations. Group A, which is no parking, overtime parking, wrong direction, blocking driveway, from 20 to 25. Group B, which is 10 feet from a fire hydrant and blocking a fire lane from 50 to 100. And Group C, which is illegal parking in handicap spaces from 100 to 300. And also the additional discussion regarding overtime parking, the ability for the police to issue a second violation if a second 2-hour violation has occurred after the first violation was issued.
There you go. That's a mouthful.
So I think one of the things that was part of our discussion last time was exactly that last point, is the issue of, hey, should the violation fee go up higher? And I think you presented that what we'd rather do is take it up a little bit and then offer multiple tickets. Offer is not really the right word here, but and so I think that was, I think, something I brought up. I think, Chris, you had the same question, just in thinking that through. And clearly this is what you're thinking. I also know kind of on the next page, you talk about some other communities, 2 pages down, just to see kind of where they are, to see if there's anyone that is putting in a very high overtime parking fee. And I don't see it particularly.
No, so all the towns that we pulled were in between $15 and $25 for that Group A category.
Yeah, and our mission is, we have the kiosks going in. We're concerned that the cost of buying that kiosk ticket is too close to the cost of a violation, therefore people might stay. And the whole point of the kiosk is to get flow going, so we want people to move. And then the solution I think you folks are suggesting will be best, and maybe is more consistent with other places, is that go to $25 and offer, I keep saying, give multiple tickets if there are violators that are staying there for long periods of time that are trying to kind of avoid what we're trying to set up in the first place. And that's the mechanism. So I think I've gotten myself comfortable with it personally. Chris?
Thanks, Mark. So how we can issue a separate violation after 2 hours? Does that mean if somebody gets a 2-hour ticket, then you can hit them again, and if they're still there, you hit them again, or it's only 2 in one day? Because in theory, you can probably get away with 3. I'm not saying you should, I'm just saying you could probably, within the time constraints that he
Right,
has.
just based upon the time limits, I mean, the officer would have to see the person right when the parking violation started at 8 AM, issue it a little after 10, a little after, or 12, so because it could be every 2 hours. But in all actuality, with the workload of the officers right now, we're also trying to fill the parking enforcement officer position. Our parking enforcement officer retired last month, so we are working to fill that position right now.
So the new guy that we just got just retired? But I didn't even, should you be saying that out loud? I didn't know this happened.
He's just retired from his previous job and was taking this as an end of career position.
I've seen him getting breakfast like every single day, but other than the, last 2 weeks or so I didn't know that. I guess for me, the multiple tickets thing isn't for like residents, it's the contractors that are taking up these spots. So how I wanted to see an increase to prevent that kind of thing was the 20 to 25. But I guess when the kiosks go in, I noticed some other cities and towns are using like meters or another different type of violation. So the kiosk itself could have its own as opposed to overtime parking. So we could create something like that, or they can recommend it, or whatever we can do. It's more of just getting the people out of the parking lots in the construction vehicles that are parking. At least they're not doing it in front of Tin Bucket that I've seen the last couple times around after I mentioned it to Fidel. But just getting those kind of vehicles away from where they shouldn't be parking, because it's 2 hours there and they park for the whole day. So it's not about the money, it's just about getting these people to move. And then the hydrant stuff, like I brought the handicap and all that stuff, I don't know how people still park there, and they deserve $300 if you're gonna park in a handicap spot. So I'm fine with that.
Do we have the ability to either boot or tow vehicles after payment?
Yes, vehicles can be towed. We don't do any kind of booting, but vehicles.
Yeah, well, the booting will keep the parking spot, we don't want that.
Well, have your face on the boot, Mark.
But the kiosks also come with, we're getting 3, I want to say tablets, but they're basically handhelds. So that has better technology for enforcement options. So you don't have to go down and write every single parking registration plate and time it that way. It's all on the handheld now, communicating with the kiosks.
Do you get a ping? Oh, someone's overtime. Get on down
Go
there.
back around and scan the plate again, so it's
Okay.
much easier for the parking enforcement.
Well,
officer.
that's good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Other comments, questions? Jackie?
I'm good with these, thank you.
Yep, same for me. I'm very good. Thank you.
Kyle?
Thanks.
I'm good, thanks.
We have a motion?
Yep. Move to adopt the recommendations from the Reading Police Department on parking violation fees as presented, including the recommendation to allow that a separate violation ticket may be issued after 2 hours of the violation if the original violation is still occurring.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Karen. Any other comments, discussion? Hearing, let's take a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? We are 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
You didn't mention that, by the way, the cruisers are going around and ticketing everybody right now.
Including you, Mark.
We're talking right now.
All right, next on our agenda, discuss revisions to section 1.2.5 of Reading Select Board Policy. Are you presenting?
Sure, I can. So in the packet, Caitlin, if you can go to page probably 2. Sorry, page
15.
4, page 4.
So
I guess
your comments on
we'll
page
start with
4?
that first, yeah.
Okay.
Page 4 of the packet. Essentially, the Supreme Judicial Court, the Supreme Judicial Court issued a decision, Barron versus Calenda. It was the town of Southborough, I believe, Southborough, where a resident filed a lawsuit against the select board, and because the resident within the public comment section said some offensive language to the chair, and what was said is actually on page 4, and the chair of that select board essentially told the resident or the speaker to stop saying those comments, and when the speaker did not stop, the select board shut the person down and asked that person to leave the meeting. That person left, went and filed a lawsuit that went all the way to the Supreme Judicial Court, and the Supreme Judicial Court issued a decision that the select board and particularly the chair can moderate reasonable time, place, and manner. So essentially the length, the where in the agenda, and the manner of speaking, but public comment is considered public speech, and they cannot restrain or prevent anyone from saying whatever is on their mind. I will say that the town council was stated that the select board chair could make comments like, we would like to see, or comments like that are not appreciated. Things that essentially don't shut down those comments, but more provide an expectation that is okay. To provide an expectation is okay, but to shut down public comment over the content of the public speech is not allowed. Section 1.25 of the select board in public comment has an item 3, which says that to avoid making disparaging comments about individuals, town council felt that it was too close to be in conflict with the recent decision by the Supreme Judicial Court, and recommended to the select board that last point be stricken from that section.
So as this was coming forward, a couple of questions came up to me. One is the words peaceful and orderly is within kind of the scope of the chair's responsibilities. And the open meeting law is actually very clear on this also, stating that if someone doesn't comply with only speaking when they've been recognized by the chair, that they understand the time limits and place and things like that, then the chair could in fact tell them they need to stop because their time is up, or that's the end of that. And the open meeting law, I believe, also says that there are teeth to it, which is that person, if they disrupt the meeting, can be escorted out. So one of the questions was whether or not that's something that should be brought into this 1.2.5. My suggestion for tonight is that we deal with this first issue because it's more hot, but maybe come back to this and talk a little bit more about what should or shouldn't be there in terms of making things clear. And I also was concerned that I think we do want to set a tone, and it seems that the best way to do that is exactly that, is to have the chair set a tone, not have it written into the regulation. So that was kind of my take. Any other thoughts on this one? Chris?
Thanks, Mark. Congrats on not having disparaging comments about you for the whole year of chair, so you didn't have to deal with any of number 3. I guess for me, the fact that preceding number 3 says that the speaker shall, it doesn't say the speaker will. So I'm just wondering why the actual definition of shall, if we wanted to get technical, is expressing a strong assertion or intention. So I still think we're covered because we're still implying about avoiding making disparaging comments about individuals. I don't see how we're not covered. If it'd be different if it said the speaker will avoid making disparaging comments. Plus, it's our policy. If you can always change it. I don't think that we actually have to. It's still in there that, you know what I mean? It's maybe you want to clean up the rhetoric that's being used, but I still think this is covered.
It almost feels like points 1 and 2 require a will, if that's the right word. Right, but there's nothing.
Correct. See, because now yes, all right, well, I can see where you're coming from.
And again, I mean, we have seen time and time again that select board policies are policies adopted by the select board on how you should operate, right? It's a shall operate. It's not necessarily will operate. These are policies of the body. They can be waived at any time. The concern is, if there is a chair that wishes to enforce that, right? As long as we don't enforce this rule, don't try to shut public comment down, then it's because what they're saying is offensive, because then we're probably covered. It's just what we thought is that in the future, right? I mean, so future boards to see this and they say, well, it's in the policy, obviously it must be correct.
Well, I think it's correct, but going back to Mark's point, 1 and 2 are now incorrect, technically, if we were to clear it up. I just think that regardless of what's in here, a chair could just go against all of it anyway. So you can say you're covered, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they specifically know exactly what, you know what I mean? Us 5 are gonna know it. But in the future, anybody can do whatever they want regardless. So you might think that you're covered, but you're not, if someone decides they wanna say whatever they wanna say. So I think it's fine if we want to change it to will and then do shall and whatever. It's up to you, Mark.
I think my suggestion is simplify it for now. I think I might. Is Donna still with us?
No.
No. Okay. I'm wondering if that shall should be will, and 1 and 2 remain. Address only the chair, speak only for the time allocated, to make that very clear. I would suggest that another day coming back around on this. This feels like there's some urgency in not giving the implication of kind of constraint this way. But the clear things for constraint are you can only address the chair, you must only address the chair and speak only for the time allocated. And myself not doing it recently, and for future chairs, maybe the thing to do is to make the policy clear at the outset of the meeting each time, just so that we get into this path so everyone's clear. I think we haven't had an issue with it, but I think we should just make it clear. Cal?
I agree, thank you. I think the only thing I'd want to see to be clearer on number 2 is speak for only the time allocated specified by the chair.
Sure.
Because you do a good job of, when there's the room is full, who likes to speak?
Right.
And then tonight, I'm thinking back, you didn't mention the 2 minutes, all right? Bill Brown went over 2 minutes, but he was talking about Memorial Day, and we're not gonna cut him off, right? And he talked about the veterans. So I think there's leeway, right? But I think with the packed room and 10 people raise their hand, that's when any chair can say 2 minutes, 3 minutes, whatever, but I think that would help.
Yeah, and in practice, in those circumstances,
Yeah.
I use the timer.
Yeah, right.
Just to make it consistent.
1 or 2 people, we're gonna give some leeway. I mean, I think any chair would give some leeway given the topic.
Other thoughts? Jackie?
Yeah, so I read the SJC decision and the court found that the Southborough's public comment policy violated the state constitution, and particularly the right to assembly in the state constitution, which was interesting, instead of the kind of free speech. And, you know, part of assembly, according to the state constitution, is redressing, a way of addresses, petitions, or remonstrances, redresses of the wrongs done to them and the grievances they suffer. And the court essentially said that, like, to your point, Mark, while you can have time, place, and manner restrictions to keep the comments orderly and peaceable, you can't have vague policies that somehow try to enforce respectability and reasonableness. I saw this described in some kind of general interest news articles as the right to be rude. And it certainly seems like that's a good way to describe it. I certainly don't think that this is the way, we should aim to conduct ourselves. And I think the way we conduct ourselves sets the tone. But I do think that third part of our current policy puts us at the same risk that Southborough was at.
So taking it out.
I support removing the
three out
third,
of it.
yes, I do.
So I made a change, added will, number 1, address only the chair and speak for the only time allocated by the chair.
Got it. I think we should come back to this another time and clean it up. I think it's messy, but town council brought it to our attention as something that was kind of a dangling and worthy of addressing it tonight. Actually, it was, when it first came up, it was even a meeting ago. And it was like, okay, how do we phase this in with timing? So I would suggest that we go with what this version that's up here. Karen, you haven't weighed in.
Yeah, no, that's great. I understand, number 3 is the most, is the trickiest part about this, so that might be a good idea, just to get rid of it for now.
Sense of the board, we go with that?
Yeah, I'm fine, as long as we revisit it, but yeah, for now.
Yeah, I think it's a revisit. Okay, if you have a motion first then, please. Oh, sorry, this one.
Yes, no, mine encompasses that.
Perfect.
Move to remove item 3 from the select board policy 1.2.5 public comment and add will instead of shall as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jackie. Any other discussion on this? You want to read it one more time, everybody, just to make sure this is?
Can you read it out loud for us guys?
Yep. Each person appearing before the select board who wishes to speak will, upon recognition by the chair, identify him/herself by name and address of residence. Failure to identify him/herself may result in the chair withholding permission for that individual to speak to the select board. When recognized by the chair, the speaker will 1, address only the chair, and 2, speak for only the time allocated by the chair. All right, we ready for a vote? All those in favor? Those against? We are 5-0. Very good. Okay, we are to the discussion on real property. I had suggested, and I still think appropriate here, let's have a motion to adjourn into executive session. I would imagine it doesn't need to be more than 15 minutes or so. And then come back into open session, and then have a discussion in open session on the same topic, and then complete our agenda. Does that work for everybody? Can you make us, I don't know if the motion
I'm good.
does that.
Yep. Move to enter under purpose 6 to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of 17 Harden Street as the chair declares that an open meeting could have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the body, to invite town manager Fidel Montez and executive assistant Caitlin Nacella to attend the executive session and to reconvene in open session.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jackie. Any discussion on this? All right, all those, oh, sorry, we have to roll call this. Okay, let's go through it. Okay, Carlo,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Mark, yes. So we are adjourning to executive session and we'll be returning to open session soon. In open session, so that we're now discussing the 17 Harnden Street as our agenda item right now. So, and Bob, I can share this with you separately, but in consultation with town council and bond council, the structure of a purchase and sale agreement proposed by the current owner is not something that as a municipality we're able to execute. We explored multiple options to make this happen, but unfortunately, none of them were mutually agreeable. As such, we will return to the original process of conducting a feasibility study for a new senior center. And further discussion on this will be a future agenda item, will be an agenda item at our next meeting. So that's where we are. All right, let's come back to our agenda.
Future agenda.
Discuss future agendas. So as a future agenda item, we've talked about this. We agreed that at our next meeting, we should have the reorganization take place, the leadership reorganization. Anything else for future agendas we want to put on here?
We put on a preview from our town assessor for the tax classification in June, like we did last year.
Oh, yeah.
He says he has data for 2022 and he would very much like to come for the board.
Cool. Let's ask the assessor for that.
For our next meeting, or is it future agenda?
Future agenda.
Okay, yeah.
The June 6th meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would be 20th.
Yep, future agenda. Chris?
Thanks, Mark. Can we get an update for getting email addresses for various boards and committees kind of scenario? And are we, I don't know if I can ask, but swapping over to the town whatever email address as opposed to this? That's why it's not happening.
Yep.
I would just like to see what we can do about getting CPDC or FinCom an actual email address.
FinCom has one. CPDC can have one. FinCom is finance, at ci.ready, blah, blah. So that's the interim solution, basically.
Correct.
CPDC.
So seeing about doing that for other boards and committees, maybe get an update on how much the licensing will cost, et cetera. And then something reviewing with the code red stuff that we have. While I like seeing we get code red things, I just want to see if we should just be using them as an emergency, because that's when I see when it comes up. And then maybe another phone number or reverse 911 thing that just changes the logic, because when I see code red come up, I want it to actually be an emergency, not that the road is getting paved or something.
So code blue?
Yeah, code blue, whatever you want to use. Like, it just, when I see it come up, I'm like, is there like some horrible thing that is happening? It's like, the roads are getting fixed, or it's time to vote. It's like, that's not an emergency.
Does our opt-in have different types of things that we want to hear?
That's why I wanted to see what we can do about
Yeah. So
having
maybe
discussions.
yeah, I think it's a good discussion. And maybe if we can broaden it to that, what's the best way to collect what people want to hear? And then deliver it.
And then in terms of downtown businesses, maybe exploring having a board member appointed or whatever we can do about communicating with the businesses over there. I know Benjamin is going to be going around and doing all that stuff. I just know from my own travels that I would like to see something done before what's coming up in the future. Because we know the grants and everything about redoing Haven and all that, and all these people are going to be gonzo by the time this stuff gets done. Or when the word gets out that we're just ripping up Haven Street again in a year or two. So just seeing if we can, we have different boards and committees for various things, just seeing if maybe we can do something regarding that. Just like a board member liaison to the business community or something like that.
To do what?
To just communicate with Benjamin and whatnot, and report back to the board all the concerns or praise, et cetera, for what's been going on for Haven and Main Street.
Liaison to the business, what is this title? Business.
Yeah, just,
Don't we have an economic development liaison already?
We think we used to have one.
Yeah,
or
we definitely
might
did.
already
Let's
have
see what the
one.
website says.
well, doing something like that then.
Keep going, I'll go look it up with that.
But that's all I got.
So is that, excuse me, Mark, is that unrelated to the F-ups that's been happening, or is that?
This is just in anticipation because of the grants for, the stuff that we
Yeah,
got.
that's coming down the road, but, my issue is no notice given when a street is getting shut down. Not just construction, a street is getting shut down, coned off end to end. No notice is being given.
I think that would be incorporated in this kind of outreach as well. Just having somebody involved in this.
Yeah, but currently, there's no mechanism in place.
Well, that's what I'm trying to.
No, I know, but how do we fix that? We as I don't want that onus on me as a volunteer to, I'll advocate, but I don't want to be responsible for knowing all the details and knowing all the construction that's going on. Is that what you're saying?
Not.
Can I
It's.
make a suggestion? Let's make this an agenda
We'll
item.
make it
Let's
an
talk about
agenda
it.
item
Let's see
and
what,
go-
what's the best way to handle it. And I understand both points, one of them being, how are we gonna kind of pick that up? We do have economic development liaisons,
Who are they?
Karen and Carlo.
I'm not sure that list is correct.
Yeah,
I've
so I
never
don't
heard
remember
of-
voting on it last time, actually.
I don't recall that either.
So that may have been a remnant, but let's talk about it. Let's see what's the best way to do it.
If we do, then,
Because
I
it was
mean,
economic development. No,
Yeah, let's-
really?
We have an agenda
All
topic.
right, okay.
That sounds good. Okay, anything else for our future?
Well, I don't want next meeting, not future. I want this addressed now,
So,
as soon as possible, because this has been kicked down the road for months.
the economic development side
No,
or
the
liaison?
BS about construction and lack of notice and just shutting streets down and impacting businesses. Oh, notice wasn't given? No, notice wasn't given. Because if notice was given, I would have nipped it in the bud.
So, we started that discussion, but let's make it an agenda topic of what is it that we can do about controlling contractors if they're gonna kind of come in and do stuff. And let's assume if we can, great, as a system. If we can't, then what do we do about it? Is there something that we can do to be more helpful? For example, literally having someone responsible for kind of working with those most impacted then and there at that point and seeing if there's anything that can happen. And maybe that's an interesting approach to it, so that when we know something bad is like, boom, it's about to happen, didn't give anybody any notice, okay,
We
what do
have
you
an
do?
ombudsman. That's what the ombudsman's for.
Yeah, so somewhere between ombudsman and Ben, probably. What's realistic that they could do that would mitigate? But I think to the point of, if they say, hey, we're paving now, I don't know what you do, other than get out of the way.
but are they allowed to just, we'll
Well,
discuss
yeah,
it then.
yeah, I think that's what we're
That
gonna
just
do.
seems wild to me that people could just be like, I'm doing it, and you're not stopping me, like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, maybe we can get some background from some other communities too. Because again, to Mr. Brown's point, we're not unique. Okay, anything else?
Just a quick question, you emailed us about open meeting law training being given by Ivrea.
Mhm.
Is that something we need to post for?
So it's a training, so we don't have to post for it.
Can you remind me what it is?
It is, we got a flyer, we just,
Okay,
we were trying to get through, town meeting first.
understood.
But
I think I never got it in my calendar, so,
it is, May 23rd.
okay,
And,
good, thank you,
it is not open to the public, it's open to members of boards and committees.
okay.
So we should talk about how to publicize that to members of boards and committees.
We'll do it through email, but,
Yeah.
we got a flyer already that.
Let's do it at town meeting too. It seems like the
Do
easiest.
a town meeting and maybe liaisons push out to the chairs.
Just make sure I wanna make sure I didn't miss it.
All right, let's go to draft minutes from March 21st. Any suggested changes?
I have some changes which I didn't send Caitlin, my apologies, just, I think, well, if you guys don't mind, I'll go first, unless Caitlin already has some that you wanna go through? Okay.
No, I did not receive any changes.
Okay, I think public comment, Diana, I think it's Sirna, Sirna, not Sirwa.
Okay. I couldn't tell by your handwriting on the check-in sheet.
Yeah, sure. I think it's clear enough. And then, just one little addition in my liaison report. FinCom finished up budget presentations and discussed standardizing the trash cards and discussed allocating. Jeffrey or Fidel helped me with this. We discussed options for funding the Birch Meadow Phase 1 and you voted on it. I guess that's, I just wanna add that in there. Or you just discussed,
Yeah, discussed. Did we take a formal vote on it?
well, this was a FinCom meeting.
FinCom,
And the
FinCom did.
FinCom
Yeah.
did, I think. Okay, that's maybe what we need. And let's see, so FinCom finished up the budget presentation, discussed standardizing the trash cards and recommended additional funding for Birch Meadow Phase 1.
That was good.
Thank you for helping.
Anything else?
Nope.
Anybody else have changes?
I don't have a change, but it's more of a agenda / Fidel-ish kind of issue. Sharilla mentioned about changing the cobblestones in front of CVS to be 15 minutes parking, that's in the minutes. Can we actually see about, once the kiosks go in, about evaluating that specific area's parking? Because to me, that makes more sense to be offering the grab and go kind of things over in that section and then the long-term stuff out back. So, it kind of alleviates the people that are gonna wanna go to CVS for 15 minutes and then like, now I gotta pay for a kiosk thing. And I don't wanna do this, I'm gonna leave. So, just have the PTTF just evaluate expanding the options when the kiosk stuff gets rolled out.
Not a future agenda item.
Yes.
Does it have to be, or for Dell, you
Well,
can
it's
just
not
talk and
minutes,
if nothing
right?
changes? No, it's more of just him seeing if it's even possible, or if that's something that they would do, and then we can do it, I guess.
So I think if we want them to evaluate it, we should make an agenda item
Yeah, that's fine.
and do it.
Yep.
And they may say, great idea, give us 6 months to see how things go. So I know they just put in 15-minute spots, not, or 30-minute spots.
Whatever the time,
Yeah.
because there's a mishmash over there, so, yep, that's fine.
I got a quick one.
Yeah.
Can we maybe the second meeting in May, ask Ben to come back for 10 minutes and give us an update in the kiosks?
Okay, so back to future agenda.
Yeah. Oh, I'm on minutes, I'm sorry.
We're on minutes, guys, focus.
We're on minutes.
Only
At least
9:10.
mine was in the
Alright.
minutes, well, kiosk is in the minutes too, Carl.
Anything else on the minutes?
Sorry.
I am good with the minutes.
Anything else?
Should we also plan after we reorganize to renominate for VASC?
We should go through the entire,
Oh, yeah, liaisons,
Liaison.
yep, got
et
it,
cetera.
okay.
Yep, absolutely. So, but let's add that to the agenda. Do we usually do that at that same meeting? I think not.
No, it's usually
No,
Meeting after.
usually,
A meeting or so after. Kind of get the sea legs. Okay, closing on minutes, we have a motion to approve as amended.
Move to approve the meeting minutes from March 21st, 2023 as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Karen. Any discussion? Not appearing. All those in favor, raise your hand. Opposed? 5-0. Anything else? There's nothing else on the agenda, right?
I will be
Alright.
gone the first 2 days of town meeting in Florida, going to Disney, so
Good.
everyone will miss me, I'm sure.
Anybody like to make a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Awesome. Is there a second? Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? We are adjourned.